Coming up next on Let's Refresh with Bishop Stephen A. Davis.
Y'all a bunch of phonies. Because you ain't trying to protect yourself, and you don't want no relationship with nobody because you want to do what you want to do. And ain't no devil taking you out. You taking your own self out. You're the one that's entertained that. You're the one that returned the text. You're the one that sent back the email. You're the one that winked. All kingdom journeys begin with a promise of a blessing. All kingdom journeys, I'm not talking about a man's journey, I'm talking about a kingdom journey. All kingdom journeys begin with a promise of a blessing. I prove it to you in scripture. I had just wrote these points down. I said, well, let me send some scriptures because I know I got some people going to question me. So in Genesis chapter 12, verse 2, this is the promise to Abram who becomes Abraham. This is the promise. Genesis 12, verse 2. This is what it says. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. That is a promise. That is God's promise to Abraham, who becomes Abraham. God changes his name. It's time for God to change your name. If God gives you a promise, he's going to change your name. Your name is not going to be the same. And I'm not talking about a physical name. I'm talking about a posture. They may have called you homeless. People have a way of labeling you. They will label you. They will call you by your sickness. They will call you by your past behavior, drug addict. People will label you, but when God makes a promise to you, get ready, your name is going to change. So God starts everything in the kingdom. All kingdom journeys begin with a promise of a blessing. God has no promise to you of a curse on your life. If you're operating in a curse, it's because you're struggling in your identity. God had no intentions for creation to be cursed. So every journey that you go on, if you're sitting still, and that's the problem with the church, it sits still. It never moves out, never does anything. They're comfortable sitting in the church. Well, God has much more for you to do outside of the church. It's not a journey if you're just sitting in the church. We can't blame it on COVID after COVID is over. Some of us in church felt so good. Oh, wow, we don't have to do anything now. That is not the truth. I worked the whole time. I was working the whole time. My staff had 1 week off. They got complacent. I said, it's time to go back to work. So on this journey, all kingdom journeys begin with a promise of a blessing. It's a promise. That's how God started this thing. Let me do this because I think some people got some things mixed up. Let me tell you who he made the promise to, and then let me tell you what you're supposed to do with the promise. In Galatians 3 and verse 9, so then those who are of faith are blessed with believing Abraham. Galatians 3 verse 9, if you're trying to believe with your mama, if you're trying to believe with your church, if none of those are connected to Abraham, you're not going to get in on this promise. So then those who are of faith, that's why we're here, that's why you're streaming, is because you say you have faith. I am about to make some room for some believers around me because I got too many people around me that don't believe. Many of your partners, your girlfriend, your club, your running partners, you got too many people who don't believe. And they're all around you. They sit in the pews while I'm preaching. When you're a believer, you impact the atmosphere in a positive way. And it doesn't take me getting far over in my text where I have to entertain you before you start feeling it. If I got to pump you up every service, that means whatever you're connected to is draining you when you leave. If iron doesn't sharpen iron, I need to figure out what I'm joined to. Stay with me here. These are the principles that I've operated by, and these principles keep you from struggling financially. Now, you come up with your own theology, you come up with your own religion. This works. From a borrowed storefront building and 23 people. We have experienced this working. And doubters can never stop us from believing it. Never. When what you do has been proven, don't let other people talk you out of it. All kingdom journeys, not man's journey, kingdom journey, God's journey for your life. If God created you, he had a plan for you before you were formed in your mother's womb. It is your responsibility to find out what that plan is. I am not going to be a plumber with a what you call those things that the dog wrap around the doctor's neck. Yeah, that. If someone shows up at your house and says they're a plumber and they have one of those around their neck, you need to question them. Too many people come into your presence with tools that doesn't fit their assignment. How many people have you had singing that can't sing? That tells you how jacked up the church is, how confused the church is. We put people on projects that have no skill to do it on a high level. Just because they feel like it, that doesn't mean anything. Because your feelings, if you don't have identity, can fluctuate. This kingdom journey started 25 years ago. 25 years ago. Income wasn't even $300 a week. How are we going to pay the bills? How am I going to get paid? Believe. You think, let me help some of y'all. You think that crisis you in is the devil. Now it's trying to shift your belief system. See, you had everything given to you. And you had all these favorable experiences. But when you don't have none, you learn how to get into those 3 P's. You don't struggle with obedience when you don't have any options. Oh, well, let's just have a meeting about this. Why don't we just obey? Why don't we just do what the word says do and watch the word work? It works. I'm a living witness. It works. All right. Number two. Y'all still with me? Number 2. This is the one that most people have problems with. This is the one all 5 or more thousand people have seen me walk in this for 24 years, and they still struggle with it. Heaven will confirm the blessing through a priestly representative. Heaven will confirm the blessing through a priestly representative. Now, I'm going to go back. This is part 1, and I'm going to go back with each one of these. I only have 3, and I'm going to preach a message on each one of these. So I'm going to go into depth. This is just getting your mind ready. Because most of you shout about a blessing, but your mind can't handle the blessing. Because until your mind can handle a blessing, this is how a blessing works, okay? The blessing works like this. When you receive, all those hungry people you feed. See, as long as you're thinking, I'm going to go buy me some new tennis shoes. As long as you think it's all for you, you're missing him. The blessing is not all for me. I had to change my way of thinking because I was shouting over this word. I texted to Lady Davis earlier this morning. She said, oh, that's a great word. But it's not for us. It's for others. Now listen to this. Listen to this. Let me help you. These I work. I operate under a promise, and I operate under a representation of a priest. Now, when I go back to this particular scripture, that priest could be your pastor. That priest could be an apostle. that priest can be a father. Remember that, because I'll deal with that when I come back. If you can't be your own priest, let me make this clear for you. For all of you who think you can be your own priest, that's your hindrance. You cannot be your own priest. So they've seen me for 24 years have a representative. For 24 years. My family's seen me with a representative for 24 years, if not longer than that. This P is very important. It's so important, it's in Scripture. I made sure that I pulled this Scripture from the New Testament. You want to know why? Because some people say if it's Old Testament, it's not valid. So I pulled it from the New Testament. Hebrews chapter 7, and you need to ask yourself, why did they say it in the Old Testament and they said it again in the New Testament? It means you can't throw it away. You can't discard what's in Scripture. Whether you're an Old Testament saint or a New Testament saint, we got you. Here it is. Hebrews 7 and verse 1. Listen to how it reads. For this Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of the Most High God, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him. I thought he was already blessed. He was. But there had to be representation, physical representation in the earth that validated what God said to him. You cannot be a self-appointed pastor. You cannot be a self-appointed minister. You cannot be a self-appointed anything. And what has caused this problem, we got too many priests appointing themselves. Well, my mom said I sound like a minister. Your mom lost her hearing. Not one thing that I operate in did I not have a priest to affirm it. That's why I am so bold in what I do. I have been affirmed. Walk outside of any of these doors, look in these hallways, and you will see plaques on those hallways where I was affirmed to do what I do. I didn't wake up one morning and say, well, I'll just be this, or I'll just be this. And people do that all the time. You can get your credentials off the internet, which means you don't have a priest. So the people, let's just dive into this, because people struggle with the term apostle. People struggle with the term father. But people will be more receptive of a priest. So let's just help you. I'm going to be your priest. You don't want a daddy. You don't want an apostle. But I want to be your priest. Because if you allow me to be your priest, all the obstacles that we overcame, you will too. Let me help. Let me help all of you who are struggling in your marriage. All you need is a priest. That's all you need. All you need is a priest. Guess what my priest said? Go get counseling. And I obeyed. My priest at that time sent a message to me through his assistant. Said, go and get counseling from so-and-so in Birmingham. And I did. So I'm still married. Because my priest sent a word. And I obeyed. So you're gonna go through a divorce. You're gonna see all your children suffer like that because you don't have a priest. So Melchizedek spoke words over Abraham, who had just bought his new house and opened up his business. Slaughtered. He had just had a victory. This is the problem. Most people think they have enough victory that they don't need a priest. That's the problem. You got your business open. You think nobody needs to bless you, don't you? You made some accomplishment and you think you don't need a blessing. Let me tell you something. Your accomplishments will drive you wild if you don't have a priest speaking over you. You think the blessing will drive you out of your mind. That's why I know you can't handle my position. Because if the blessing is not on you, you wouldn't know what to do with the decisions that I have to make. It is the priestly blessing on me that helps me to handle the adversity. You can't even love the people that you heard talked about you. You got to be able to handle the people you heard them yourself talking about you, and you still got to love them. That's when you have a priest. You got to be able to deal with and process all the emotions, and no, you can't talk right now. Someone else is talking. You have to be able to process all that so that you don't damage where God is taking you. I was telling Lady David, some of the things that I went through, if I wrote a book, they would have me on the bestsellers list. But my priest said, leave it alone. My priest said, leave that alone. It can get you a lot of attention, but it won't sustain you. I had an experience. They were calling me from New York for interviews. Tons of places in Atlanta were calling me for interviews. But my priest said, leave it alone. See, if you had a priest, you wouldn't be dogging out your wife to your coworkers or your husband. You had a priest. All you needed was a priest, and they would have told you, no. Let's keep this information confined. Okay, all right. This is good stuff. It's good stuff. I'll get you delivered if you want to be. So it's these P's that are important, especially when you have a promise over your life. If you don't have a promise over your life, you don't need any of these P's. But if you have a promise over your life, you need a priest. If you're gifted, you need a priest. If you're moving rapidly to success, you need a priest. You need somebody in your life. You need somebody that can tell you no. You need someone that in the highest level of rank that you have so much respect for them that you still come and yield yourself like a son or daughter. That's what's happened to me. I had 3,000 members when my next priest came into my life. We didn't have any problems. We never had any problems financially in this building. We were doing what we do. The whole bottom level on a Wednesday night was packed. But the Lord said, you need a priest. So I took that second P and I put it in place. And there are words that he spoke over me that are still manifesting right now. They're still manifesting right now. My original priest is at home to be with the Lord. That means he's transitioned. That means he's no longer alive. So the priest that I allowed to speak into my life now told me, I was having a conversation because I had said some things that I shouldn't have said because I was frustrated because some things happened just before I came out into service. So I done well for about 45 minutes, and then I just opened up my mouth. And so my priest told me when he found out about it, because I mentioned his name, so when I mentioned his name gets back to his office. So it got back to his office, so we were in a conversation, and he said, I can tell you don't have a good PR person because they didn't turn you off. And while we were talking, he said, there's more information coming through about this, so let me call you back. So he listens to the other information that's come through, and he gets back on the phone. He's not nice either, but he's my priest. So he makes some corrections, so I embrace those corrections, and then later he invites me into a closer circle with him. He learned that he could tell me the truth, and the truth would set me free. You never want a priest that'll lie to you. That's not a real priest. In other terms, that's a false prophet. Last P. Number 3. Stay with me on this one. It's passion. Passion would not allow you to quit until possession of the full inheritance. The full inheritance. The full inheritance is achieved. How many quitters have you been around? My passion has to be high because there's always something that wants me to stop. There are people who want me to stop. There's always something that wants you to stop doing what you've been ordained by God to do. You have a promise on your life. You have a priest in your life. So you got to have such passion that it'll overcome your doubters. It'll overcome your critics. They were doing something. They're making some changes. And those, I won't go into a whole lot of detail because that's not good right now. They were making some changes to create more challenges because they know certain people quit easily. So if they create some type of challenges, you're not going to push very hard. So you'll quit. So I said, well, some things is going to demand that I have so much passion that I keep pushing. It doesn't mean that God doesn't have it for me. He said, behold, I set before you an open door, but there are many adversaries. So at that point, I have to push. I know what's on the other side of the door is mine, so I'm going to push. So I know I'm going to come in contact with challenges, so I'm going to push. My passion is greater than your doubt. I promise you, my passion is greater than your doubt. Because your doubt makes you think you feel the room. Your doubt doesn't feel this room. Because I've already saturated this room before your doubt came into this room. So my passion comes out. And I came with an attitude of teaching tonight. Because this is important. Because if you don't have these components in place, how are you going to do what I do? And you really don't know what I'm doing because I'm doing it in so many different ways, in so many different places. So if the quitters are in the church or come to church, and that's where a lot of people quit. The man laid there for 38 years. He quit. He gave up on believing that he could be healed. He quit. So it's not that you won't stop coming. It's that you won't do anything when you come. And you won't do anything with what you gain when you come. I went to Winona High School yesterday, and I ran into Principal Goldsmith. Well, I didn't run into him. I went to meet with him, and I took some of my team with me. And 3 years ago was my first visit. He had just become the principal. So I walk in, we start talking, and I can see the progressive change that has taken place in the high school since I was there 3 years ago. One particular year, he was sick most of that year. So you give him 2 years, and we could see at least 5 to 7 years of progress that he's made in 2 years. And this is what he said. This is what he said. I have used your kingdom teaching. This is a principal of a school. I have used your kingdom teaching, and I have gotten results. And what would happen when I knew he was sick, some nights I'd be in bed. I would be in bed some nights, and I would just pick up my phone. He would come across my mind. I would pick up my phone, and I would text him to let him know I was praying for him. So encouraged him through that year that he was challenged in his health. So I encouraged him through that year. So we were getting ready to leave, and they had police officers that are on staff there, and they were telling us about another school down the street, and he knew the principal, and he said to them, he said, this is my pastor. This is my priest. She got her own pastor. This is what he said. This is what he said. See, he has bought in. He has bought in so much. He knows who his leader is, and he's taking that school and those students to a new dimension. That's what he's doing. Now, for you, I can't help it. These long-term people don't see me as their priest no more. Maybe they're on Facebook too much. Maybe they're doing too many I want to get rich schemes. I don't do all that stuff. If I don't sense God in it, I don't do it. I don't function like that. My emotions are not wild like that. What sounds good is not good if God's not in it. Not looking for a sound. I'm not wasting my gas, and I'm not getting on a flight going somewhere to practice something that's not going to be beneficial to everybody around me. So the passion has to be there. It takes passion to push through dilemmas. It takes passion. People think you're too aggressive, you know. I have so many obstacles. I have demons that have come in my church and try to stop me in my own church, and my name's on the deeds to everything. So you have to have passion. If you don't have passion, stuff will shut you down in your own arena. It's designed that way so that your promise will never come to pass. That's why I wanted to talk tonight. It's not that you don't have a promise. You don't have anyone that can encourage you when your promise is challenged. You will never be enough man that you don't need a priest. You've already opted out of a father. You don't want a father. But you better have a priest to hold your marriage together. You better have somebody that you yield to hear, because when hell comes your way, it'll knock you to your knees. And if you're not careful, you don't have a priest, you'll find yourself in the hands of somebody that's called a Delilah. Okay, excuse me. Let me get back over here. Genesis 22. Genesis 22. Let me tell you, when it's not that I haven't had opportunities to do wrong things, I just don't know how to answer for it, so I don't do it. How am I going to tell my priest, well, I done this because of this, this, and this? So I think about that. How am I going to answer? How am I going to explain this? How am I going to explain this 20-year-old? You understand? How am I going to explain that I was lonely on my trip? How am I going to explain that? How am I going to explain to my bank this inflated income? How am I going to explain that to my bank when they start checking my record? How am I going to explain that? How am I going to explain to the IRS where that money came from? See, when you got a priest, you're always thinking, how am I going to explain this? How am I going to explain this woman's underclothes in my house and Lady Davis going to see her mom? How am I going to explain all that? See, if you start really thinking and you got a priest in your life, half the stuff you get into, you wouldn't get into. But see, you don't want no priest because you're destined for failure. And you don't want to be accountable to anyone because it's over already. While you're in flight, your engines have already gone out. You're not going to find anything on me. You want to know why? Because I got a priest. And I kept a priest all these years. So when I'm walking by and they say, hey, you cute. Now, I'm not cute. The only one I'm cute for is Lady Davis. That's the only person I'm cute for, because I got a priest. And nothing gonna whisper with a split tongue to me to get me to move outside of what my priest has already declared a blessing over me in. See, that's why I've been nice all night long. Haven't I been nice? I've been nice all night. Y'all a bunch of phonies. Because you ain't trying to protect yourself, and you don't want no relationship with nobody because you want to do what you want to do. And ain't no devil taking you out. You taking your own self out. You're the one that's entertaining that. You're the one that returned the text. You're the one that sent back the email. You're the one that winked. You're the one that... No. See, there's something major going on with me. And I'm going to make sure I have somebody that tells, boy, you sit your butt down right there and you give an account for what you're doing because you got too much potential to be running around acting like what you're acting. Get yourself together. Go tell Lady Davis you need counseling. Let's go get some counseling right now so we can rectify this because you got too much destiny to throw it all away now.
In Luke 19:13, Jesus charged us to do business until his return. So in obedience, Refresh Family Church celebrates the launch of the new Black Wall Street in Lithonia, Georgia.
Well, I'm Bishop Stephen A. Davis, and we're here at the Black Wall Street here in Lithonia, Georgia on today. This is a very exciting time because over 100 years ago, there was devastation that took place with a lot of business owners in Tulsa. But we're now recovering, and because we're recovering, we're going to raise up entrepreneurs everywhere, and we're going to create Black Wall Streets all around the world. Why? Because we have purpose. So stay with us. There's more is going to happen around us with the Black Wall Street. It's going to expand beyond the borders, and we're going to make that happen. Don't drop it, no. We're going to work on making sure that this representation is in Birmingham, it's here in Atlanta now, and it's having tremendous impact on the lives of God's people and the life of the community. Be a part of something great, because this is great. Black Wall Street is here, and it's not going to be taken away. God bless you.
Refresh Family Church. As we worship together, remember our 5 goals: serving the needs of families, reaching the lost, equipping the saints, reaching the nations, and transferring to generations. Refresh Family Church is more than a church. To find out more, visit our website at refreshfamily.church. We'll see you next week.